Morning from St. Petersburg, Florida. It is, let me get this up here, a little slower than usual, and I'm usually slow, so I'm even slower than that this morning. It is September 19th, 7:51 a.m., and all is well here in St. Petersburg, Florida. Trying to get myself up and going. Still kind of messed up. Taking Tylenol this morning. I should be able to get something a little stronger. So we'll see if we can get through an hour this morning. Survive an hour this morning. You're looking at a street view of St. Petersburg. And people are going about their business. Yeah, going about their day. They don't care. They've got business to take care of, and that's what they're going to do. But TGIF for all the working class, all the people out there paying their taxes and keeping this country going. I'm always thankful for that. Okay, so this guy looks like he's determining whether he wants to cross this street or not. He's not real confident with the fact that he has the right of way. Of course, if you get hit by that big old bus, it doesn't matter if you have the rights or not. You're going to be in a lot of pain. So he's being a little careful on how he crosses the street this morning. So let's take a little look at the waterfront. See how the sun is coming up. The sun has barely started coming up. There's a nice view. A little foggy, but it's nice out. Okay, I gotta get a little closer so I can see the screen enough to do the weather. Let's have a look at see what's going on in Citizen Stream this morning. Let's go to a wide view here, full page like that, and we'll see what Citizen Stream is doing this morning. Egypt is live. Two Egypts are live. Fukushima, Japan says it's live. And St. Louis, Missouri, the scanner is live. So they're staying on it. And two worldwide channels are live. So 6 live channels this morning. Live streamers up and about and trying to get some information out to you. So that's a good thing. Let's have a look at the weather. See if I can see the weather from here. All right. Seattle, Washington, 66 degrees. Portland, Oregon, 63 degrees. Hayward, California, 66 degrees. Tokyo, Japan, 73 degrees. San Antonio, Texas, 77 degrees. Toledo, Ohio, 48 degrees. Los Angeles, California, 67 degrees. Denver, Colorado, 62 degrees. St. Petersburg, Florida, 80 degrees. Corpus Christi, Texas, 78 degrees. San Francisco, California, 64 degrees. And Tampa, Florida, 77 degrees. Charlotte, North Carolina, 66 degrees. New York, 55 degrees. Santa Fe, New Mexico, 59 degrees. Amsterdam, Netherlands, 72 degrees. Santa Rosa, California, 57 degrees. Gaza, 86 degrees. Tel Aviv, 86 degrees. Jerusalem, 86 degrees. Hilo, Hawaii, 75 degrees. Rotterdam, Netherlands, 66 degrees. And that's your weather from around the world. Let's have a look and see what the chats are doing this morning. Okay, let's see. Syrian Freedom has 3 viewers. And Dissenters, nobody is talking in Dissenters, but it looks like there was 2, 3 earlier this morning. And Dissenters Network News, they have 4 viewers this morning, so they're doing pretty good this morning. That's good. Usually Dissenters at this time of the morning is kind of low. And Artstarzz is just hanging out And the site chat, same thing, just hanging out. And other possibilities has 2 viewers. And let's go over to Pot TV, has 1 viewer. And Occupy Denver. Occupy Denver may not make the cut. They seem to be, just one of those channels that come on every now and again. And if we can find a channel that's a little bit more active, we may be replacing Occupy Denver. And then we got Vapor Central, and they've got 1 viewer. But that's your little quick view of the chats on artstarzz.com. Okay, so let's have a look at the Denver Post. It looks like they've found somebody who may have started that big old fire in Northern California. Yeah, this guy right here. He may be a firebug. And it's costing $5 million a day to keep this fire under control. It displaced something like 2,800 people. They have all the stats. If you want to come and, you can just Google. You can Google man faces arson charges in huge California wildfire, and you'll find this guy. They say he's a criminal. Okay, but does that make him a firebug? I don't know. Let's click on a picture here and see what else is going on. They just got firefighters fighting the fire. So I don't know what kind of time you can get and how they're going to prove it, but they have ways of proving you did it. And I would hate to even be accused. Even if I was innocent, I would hate to even be accused of something like this. You're going to do some serious jail time. You'll never recover from having to pay restitution. Even if just one of those houses burned, you'd never recover from, millions of dollars of damage. So you're ruined financially for the rest of your life, for one thing, and that's not to count how much prison time you're going to get. He can probably do 20 or 30 years and still only be like 67 or 69. He was 37 years old now. So if he did 30 years for this, he'd be 67 when he got out of prison. But if you're burning down a forest, I don't know what you're trying to say when you burn down a forest. So they've got a manhunt going on. I don't think they have him in custody. They're looking for him. And when they find him, he is in big trouble. Yeah, like I said, it didn't look like he was doing too well financially anyway, but the party's over for this guy. Along with a long prison sentence, he's going to have a lot of restitution. And being in prison doesn't pay that well. So I think he's about had it. His life, as he ever wanted it to be, is over. He's been in prison before for 3 years. So he's no stranger to prison. So other than that, I didn't see anything in a quick pre-scan of the news that was worth talking about. We're having a lot of problems trying to get Congress.
It's 8
Congress
o'clock.
voted to send some money over to the rebels in Syria and start arming them and training them. I've always wondered why they need training. They've been fighting all their lives. Maybe they've been fighting wrong. If you can't win a fight, maybe you need to learn how to fight. So, we got to go over there and train them how to fight, and then we got to go ahead and give them some more guns. The problem with, it seems like Iraq has a history. This is the first time they just dropped their weapons and ran. They're kind of, it's kind of a comedy thing over there. If it wasn't for the fact that people were actually dying over there, it would be a comedy. When Saddam Hussein had the Republic Guard, I think they were called, and they went over to Kuwait. Remember, they lit all those oil wells on fire, and they were trying to take over Kuwait. And then Daddy Bush had to go in there, and we went in. I think they called it Desert Storm or something like that. I don't remember exactly what they called it. But the United States and other countries just dropped in, and they dropped their guns. We surrender, we give up. And we had so many prisoners that we couldn't hardly fight the war, or whatever you want to call it. We couldn't, we couldn't go about fighting the enemy because the enemy had surrendered by the thousands. And now we got all these people that we've got arrested, soldiers, and we can't fight the war. So that's one way to stop a war, is just surrender. Everybody just surrender. So when we go over to Syria and some of these other places, and we start arming them, we did it once. When do we ever learn? I'm surprised that President Obama is wanting to do this. But anytime Obama does something, I think that, he knows a little bit more than we do. But I'm surprised that, both sides are voting yes on this, Democrats and Republicans. They haven't agreed on anything in 8 years, so this is something they could agree on. And, I was surprised that they agreed on this. I thought they were going to try to hold it hostage. They still got the problems of shutting down the government, but that's not big news like it used to be. Why? Because most of Americans didn't suffer when they shut down the government. We didn't suffer because the government got shut down. The people that suffer when the federal government gets shut down is really the wealthy, because they can't get permits and a lot of things that they need to do business with. They can't do contracts. They can't get paid. There's a lot that happens to them when the federal government gets shut down. The federal government helps the poor people, getting some of the services that we need, helps us do that. But it also helps the rich people get their contracts, get their checks to pay their people to stay in business. Otherwise, they've got to dip into their own accounts to pay their employees without having any money coming in. You can only do that so long, even when you're rich. You can only do that so long. If you have some of these big contracts from the federal government, then you need that money coming in, and it's usually coming in slow anyway. But if you're dealing with the federal government, you know how to do that. And the federal government only accepts contracts from people who could afford to do the job without being paid. Kind of a cool way to do business, but that's what they do. So when the federal government gets shut down, a lot of Republicans don't get paid. Democrats aren't the only ones that get these contracts. Minorities aren't the only ones that get these contracts. A lot of Republicans get them too. Now, I don't know if you make tanks and guns and uniforms and all of that stuff that they make for the military, I don't know if you get affected when the government gets shut down. But if they're talking about a soldier not being able to get a paycheck because the federal government is shut down, then I don't see how a contractor can get paid to build a tank. So the people that get affected when the federal government gets shut down is going to be a lot of Republicans. And that's why, the shutdowns don't last very long. It's just a kind of like give us some attention kind of thing, or we'll do this. We'll shoot ourselves in the foot if you don't pay attention to us. That's kind of like what the Republicans do. What I have noticed is that the Republicans aren't staying in the news like they used to, even as much as 4 months ago. They aren't staying in the news like they used to. And then we've got Chris Christie, who the FBI and other investigating people are saying, you know what? We can't find any evidence tying Chris Christie to the bridge scandal, to the Washington Bridge scandal. We can't find any evidence that he knew what was going on. So far, the most we've come up with is possibly his staff knew. So, they're kind of implying that his staff was trying to do the right thing by the governor, not really giving much thought to it. Let's just do this. We'll pressure some of these politicians because Chris Christie is out there not running New Jersey, but running his mouth and trying to become president. So the FBI and some other people that are investigating, federal people that are investigating, are saying that no, we don't have any evidence that points to Chris Christie that he did anything wrong. They're not even saying stuff like, well, he didn't do this, but he did that. They're not even saying that. They're just saying, no, he didn't do anything. We can't find anything. I don't know if you'd call that suspicious or what, but they're saying that they can't find anything. And, Chris Christie's a little happy about that, Rick Perry of Texas, well, he's happy about that because he's having the same problems in Texas. He's saying that this is all politics. It's funny when the Republicans do it to the president, it's not politics. Benghazi is not politics. Some of the things that the Republicans do to the president are not politics. That's what they say. Oh, no, we've got a legitimate claim. We're going to sue the president. We may even impeach him. That's what we got to do to this president. So, Chris Christie may have pulled this off. And the media looks like they may be taking the fall on this one. Sometimes the media does that. They jump out in front of the story because there isn't any stories. There's nothing to talk about in the news. Well, they may have to rethink how they do some of these programmings. They may have to start reporting some of the good things when there isn't any bad stuff to report. They may have to start focusing on somebody who was cured of cancer. Some young genius invents something. The government did something good. The Republicans did something good. They may have to start doing that instead of just trying to find, the silver bullet. Instead of just trying to talk about what's bad. Or what sells newspapers. Bad stories sell newspapers. That's all there is to it. People don't want to hear good news. People don't turn up the sound on their TV if something good is happening. A lot of times you turn the sound off and you're looking at the picture. Because you know what's on the TV because it's the same thing over and over and over and over. So you just turn the sound down. You kind of keep your eye up, pick your head up every now and then from the game that you're playing on the computer, or maybe you're eating dinner when you watch TV. Every now and then you glance over, but you got the sound off. And that's what the TV may have to start doing. They may have to start doing good stories because the bad stories aren't there like they used to be. We've got the big wildfires going on. We've got ISIL, ISIS, it's the same old thing. We can't even get the name right, ISIL or ISIS. We talk about the United States being under attack, possibly, maybe, could be. And then they have to run this little story about all the terrorists, possible terrorists they caught in Australia to keep us all, interested in this story. We've got the Senate hearings. They've got to keep us interested in the Senate hearings, the House hearings, on whether we're going to send any money over to Syria, whether we're going to fund the military to attack ISIS. Them are the stories. That's all they've got going. And people are saying, hey, all right, okay, you've been telling us to worry about ISIS. Nothing has happened. The United States hasn't been attacked. We find out that ISIS has been around for a long time. You know, they're killing each other over there, and that's the way the American people think about it. They're not worried about it. So that leaves nobody reading the news. That leaves us in the chats, chatting with each other. Ferguson is over. That's over. People don't want to know about Ferguson anymore because why? There's no action there. There's no confrontation. The people aren't fighting with the cops. Who wants to hear that? Bunch of peaceful protesters in Ferguson protest today. End of story. That's it. It stops right there. And then you get up the next morning, they're still peaceful in Ferguson. Who wants to see that? Nobody wants to see that. But you wake up and they say, and cops are cracking heads in Ferguson, and there's no end in sight. And you never turn that TV off. You never turn the computer off. The chats are buzzing. Thousands of people are in the chats just cheering the protesters on, trying to solve this problem from the seat of their pants. Right there in a chat, they're going to solve everything. That's what we all try to do. When there's bad news, that's good news for the newspapers. If they can't get a story going, with these politicians, then people are going to quit funneling money into the newspapers. They're going to find another way to get the people upset. The Koch brothers want to find something to get the people to vote for the Republicans so that they can get the stuff that they want. They want this XL pipeline. They want a lot of this stuff. They want to deregulate coal. There's a lot of stuff that they want. They want to be able to take their businesses overseas and not pay taxes. But I mean, you know, we all heard that. We've all heard all of these stories, so we're not interested. We're turning off the TV. We're not talking about it on the internet. There's no buzz. They have no way of getting the pulse on what we want, what affects us, what moves us. That's a problem. When you're dropping billions of dollars into the economy via the news. A lot of people, you know, they say, well, you know, get the money out of government, get the money out of politics, get the money out of here, get the money out of there. Well, them are all jobs that you're going to start eliminating when you start sending that money back into the Koch brothers' pockets. You got to make up your mind. What do you want to do? You want to create employment or not? Or do you want to decide what you create employment in? Do you want to be able to decide that too? Are you going to be the decider of who gets a job and who doesn't? There's a lot of journalists out there without jobs, but not lately. Not lately. I see that even some of the streamers have been picked up. I seen it the other day where one of the streamers was working for somebody, Vice or something like that. I don't know how big that paper is or that news media is. I don't know how big they are. I've never even checked it out. But they were talking like he moved into mainstream media. He was some kind of producer or something like that. Tim Pool. It's always been a rumor that Tim Pool works for somebody. Gets paid to go out and do some of this stuff. That's what they were saying. So all of this money going into media is paying these guys who now have a job. Now you're not going to like it because they're mainstream media? You loved them when they were just streamers struggling on pizza and cigarettes, begging for pizza and cigarettes. You loved them. But you can't afford to pay them every day. Send them a paycheck every week or every month. A lot of people get paid once a month. That's it. Get a big old check every month. Gets them through the month. That saves on checks. That helps bookkeeping. That saves the company money to do that. Pay you once a month. But you can't keep donating and donating and donating enough to support all of these streamers. If you manage to become well known because you were a streamer, you were out there, you may be able to get a job if you were any good at it. if you were always in the right place at the right time, that being that you were in a place that mainstream media was at, or you got to a place and handled a good story that mainstream media used. I don't know if you get paid for that sort of thing when they can, mainstream media can get it for free. A lot of these guys were starting to say, you're welcome to use my my broadcast as long as you're not mainstream media. I don't know how legal that is. I don't know if you can discriminate that way. I don't know if you can call it copyrighted. I don't know if live stream is copyrighted. I imagine it can get pretty technical. For one thing, you're not going to have the resources that it would take to fight a big company like NBC or CBS or MSNBC, Democracy Now!, any of them. I don't know if you'd have the money. If they want to use your stuff, they may just use it, and it might be cheaper to fight you, and you might get a little something out of it. Or, if you were smart and you wanted to gamble a little bit, you might say, yeah, go ahead and use it. And if, there's any way you can work me into your system, give me a job, put me on the payroll, get me a check once a month or whatever, or start paying me for my exclusive rights to my videos. You can do all that. And then you join mainstream media. But the news is, I think people are just it's getting to the point where it's really not news anymore. The same stories over and over and over. Until something big happens like Ferguson or a big shooting or even this forest fire. We've gotten used to forest fires, droughts. Some of the problems that we have, we've grown used to it. I haven't heard anything in the news about Exxon pipeline, the XL pipeline. I haven't heard anything about it. So there's a lot of stories that are just becoming old. Yeah, we've heard that. Anything new? Any news? Nope, nothing new. So Chris Christie may have pulled a rabbit out of the hat, and that may help Rick Perry over in Texas. It didn't help the Virginia governor, but they did say as a footnote, we're not done with Chris Christie yet. He's still under investigation. Just because we haven't found anything yet, that doesn't mean we've stopped looking. There's something there is what they're saying. We just haven't found it. He covered his tracks pretty good. But we may just have to dig a little deeper, work a little harder, and find out something, that's concrete, or it just could be a trap. Now Chris Christie relaxes, and he stops putting up all these roadblocks. Or somebody relaxes and has a slip of the tongue, and the FBI is right there listening, and they get him. So Chris Christie has looked guilty, but that's not good enough. It's not good enough. We're not the judge and the jury. We're just people who read the papers and play around in the internet. And we get a certain amount of information, and then we draw conclusions. But we're not judge or jury. So, we've got Ferguson coming up. Will they vote? Now that they've had all that trouble? Will they vote? I don't know. I know they should. Last time I heard, the last election was like 17%. That's what it was, 17% of the people in Ferguson voted. I'm going to bring us up into St. Petersburg. Take us a little look around here. You can kind of see what's going on, our weather here in St. Petersburg. It looks a little foggy. It looks like it wants to rain or do something. But will they vote in in Ferguson? I hope so. I hope they do. The change that President Obama was talking about was the change that only the people can make. He can tell you how to do it. He can tell you to vote. He can tell you to get involved in community activity. He can tell you how to do it. But if the people don't do it, it's not his fault. It's not his fault that this economy is not affecting 70% of the voters. It's not his fault that 70% of the people in the United States won't vote, who are eligible to vote. It's not his fault. It may not be anybody's fault. It may really say that 70% of the people in the United States are happy with their lives. People who are happy don't really want to participate in any system other than their own. If it's not affecting them personally, they don't want to participate. They don't care if the people at Walmart aren't making enough money. They don't care if the people in McDonald's are making enough money. They don't care. They're busy with their life. That's what they care about. And that's what the result is. 70% of the people in the United States are happy. You have to face the facts. That's not to say that 30% are unhappy. It's just that 30% of the people feel that, they should vote. It's something that we fought for. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, independent or the Green Party, that 30% of the United States feels that they're doing their duty to vote. So even as bad as things are in the United States, 70% of the people aren't affected by it, is the only conclusion I can come up with. Because if you're affected by it, you'll want to do something about it. It's on the news all the time what's happening. Why your income tax is so high, why your property taxes are so high, why your user taxes are so high. It's on the news all the time. Well, if you're making a lot of money on a regular basis, you really don't care. You've got a job, you make good money, you have everything you want. If they take, a lot of taxes out of you, you get to the point where you say, so what? You say, I've got to tip this amount when I go out to a restaurant, you tip it and say, so what? You could have lost that money. It could have fallen out of your wallet and you would have never missed it when you have that kind of money. Or if you've got a bunch more coming in, you just say, so what? It's not my problem. I'm doing okay. 70% of the people in the United States say that. Are you going to tell them, no, you're doing bad? Or this could happen to you. It's happened to me, but it could happen to you. Is that how you're going to get them to participate? Because they don't care. They're not interested in our problems. 70% of the people in the United States don't vote. They're not interested in what would be our problems, no matter how you cut it. Whether you want to just say they're lazy, maybe they're too busy working, you can maybe this thing to death. Why people don't vote, why people aren't interested in the political system. And it takes a real scandal for them to even get interested in watching any of it on TV. I remember when I was growing up, if any of this stuff came on TV, I would change the channel or I would stop watching TV. I just wasn't interested. Didn't have anything to do with me, I thought, because I was young. Even after President Kennedy was assassinated, Martin Luther King was assassinated, Bobby Kennedy was assassinated. They played that on TV for days. After the first or second day, you don't want to watch it anymore. All right, so they got killed. What are we going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? We'll take it to court. handle it. And you stop watching it. You lose interest. Doesn't change how you vote, if you vote at all. We've got this thing in Scotland. It's a big deal. They wanted to basically secede from the United Kingdom. They wanted to be their own country. How many times have we heard people trying to do that in the United States? Little counties in Colorado, California, wanting to become their own countries without thinking it through. I don't know how you become a billionaire and not think some of this stuff through. Maybe there's another reason for the things that they do. But to break away from the United States is insanity. And I kind of think the same thing about Scotland. You know, they want to be there. Some want to be their own country and some don't. So you just don't break away from a country. It's not as easy as some of these knuckleheads that think they're revolutionaries think it is. There's a lot to think about. From, little things to big things. You break away from the United States, can you use their money? Can you use our money anymore? Will the United States even allow you to use our money? Will you have to have your own currency? Because one of the things that the United States is going to say, well, you didn't want to be with us. You're not going to pay any taxes, but you want to use our money? No, you have to have your own currency. All countries have their own currency. Got to have that. That's just the beginning of the problem. Now, you got to buy out. You don't just get to break away. You got to buy out. What about all those highways and stuff that you got built with federal money? You just going to say, oh, well, we're leaving. We're taking these highways with us. No, you're not. What about the federal lands? The federal lands that are owned by the American people in your state. You think you're just going to be able to do a Clive Bundy and say, nah, I don't recognize that you own this land? What if the federal government came to your house and said they don't recognize that you own your house? How would that fly? There's a lot of land that belongs to the American people, all of the American people. No, you just can't go camp on it. Just because we own it doesn't mean we get to use it any way we want to. That guy that burnt down them forests in California owns them forests. He burnt down his own forest. But that doesn't mean you get to burn down forests because you own them. It's not that kind of ownership. It's not that kind. It's not like owning your house or your car. Having a cop work for you is not like having an employee at a boat factory, for example, that works for you, that you get to tell them what to do because you pay them. It's not that kind of employee. There's different kinds of ownership. There's different kinds of employees. There's things that you own that you can't use. We used to own the space program. Does that mean that you can go up to NASA and tell them, hey, I want to go to the moon? The next time you go, I own this. My tax dollars support this. My tax dollars paid for this. I want to be on the next rocket to Mars. Because your tax dollars paid for it? Is that what you want to be able to do? That's crazy. So when you break away from a big country like United Kingdom or the United States, it's not that easy. What about all your social programs that are funded by that country? You don't have them anymore. They're gone. You've got to depend on yourself for everything. And what about the people that don't want it? That's why Ukraine went to war. There was people that wanted to go with Russia, and there's people that don't want to go with Russia. And now they have to fight in their own country. They have to fight themselves. Because some people want this and some people want that. So they had to go to war with themselves. So that some people can go in the direction that they want to go. So it turns out the vote was no in Scotland, the last I checked. They are not going to become their own country, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who are mad about it, and there's a lot of people who are sad about it. But, I personally don't think that breaking away from your country is a solution to anything. You need all of the resources of a big country. That also means that when you break away like that, you are no longer part of the United Nations. You are no longer part of the big picture. And unless you have something that somebody wants, a lot of oil, a lot of some kind of mineral, something that other countries want, that are going to support your economy, breaking away is a bad mistake. Just because you want to be who you are, I want to be Scottish. I don't want to be English. I want to be Scottish. So you break away. But like a little story that I told, during the days of slavery, slaves wanted to be free. And then they were granted freedom. And a slave was interviewed. Back in those days, they interviewed slaves. They interviewed people. There was a newspaper. We had the media. It's in our Constitution, freedom of press. So obviously it was there. But he was asked, how does he feel about being free? And he said, well, now I'm free to starve. I'm free to starve. That's what I'm free to do. Because no white man is going to hire me and pay me. They got used to me working for free. I was a slave. They got used to that. The country was used to that. Used to a second-class citizen. Used to walking down the street and having people step aside. I'm walking here. They were used to that. And they were free to starve. It can happen with countries too. It did happen with countries when the Soviet Union broke up. So now you're free. You no longer have the protection of the United Kingdom. And somebody comes in and says, hey, we think we want this country. Kind of like what Russia is doing to Ukraine. You're not part of nothing. You're not part of you don't have no gang. You don't have nothing. You're just sitting out there. You're just a country. You're unprotected. You got people like ISIS. What's to stop ISIS from moving into Scotland? ISIS don't care where they go. They want to control the world. Scotland's part of the world. They can do that. They can go into Scotland if they want to and take Scotland. Because these people wanted to say, we're not British, we're Scottish. Great. You might be part of ISIS or ISIL, depending on what you want to call it. You might be part of that too because they took your ass over. Because you wanted to be free. Now you're free to go to war with anybody who wants your country. You're free to do that. Freedom isn't all it's cracked up to be. Especially when you're a country and you want to break away from another country. If you're a state in the United States, can you imagine that? Texas, all of Texas, wanting to secede from the United States. Texas is as big as a lot of these countries by itself. California is as big as a lot of these countries by itself. New York's the same. A lot of people in these states. But if they break away from the United States, the same thing. What you going to do for money? I mean, just the dollar bill. I'm not talking about how you're going to earn your money. I'm just talking about the dollar bill. You can no longer use it. We take these things for granted, and nobody explains this to the average person as to what this means to secede, to break away. What does it mean? Well, it means that you're free. You're free to be attacked. You're free to lose trading privileges. You're free to leave the United Nations. You're free to do a lot of stuff. But I haven't seen anything that's positive about being free like that. You know, that's why a lot of kids join gangs for protection. A lot of them don't want to be in gangs, but if they don't join this gang, then this other gang is going to attack them, force them to be part of them. So you choose which gang you want to be in, and then you get protection from that gang. That's the real world. The real world works like that. These little gangbangers aren't doing something new. They aren't deciding that they're making a new world. They're taking the world that they're fighting against and using all of the rules. If you look at a gang, it operates just like a military. They even say it. We have lieutenants, we have sergeant of arms, we have secretaries, we have all of the things that a union or a military would have. Gangs have them. They're organized. That's what people are talking about. ISIS or ISIL. They're saying they're organized. They have funding, big funding. Allies of the United States are funding ISIL. I don't know how that works. I don't know how you get to be an ally of the United States and fund an enemy of the United States so the United States is going about slowly declaring war on. But, it's not that easy to shut down something like ISIL because we can't even shut down gangs in the United States. How are we going to shut down ISIL? That's why the president knows. That's why a lot of people in Congress know that it's going to be a long fight. Drug wars. Have we won a drug war yet? Have we won any drug wars yet? There are still drugs in the United States. There's even more drugs in the United States than from when this war first started. Declaring war on something doesn't mean you're going to solve it. Well, we're going to war with them. That problem is going to be over. Just watch and see. We don't have a date, but it's going to be over because why? We've declared war on them. So that problem is going to get solved. Because now we declared war. Is that something Scotland wants to deal with on its own, really, in this world today? Where's Scotland going to get its money to take care of the country now? I guess in order for them to want to secede from the United Kingdom, there must be problems in Scotland. But you're not going to solve them by seceding. You're not going to solve them by breaking away from the country. The only thing that you're going to be able to do is say you're Scottish. You can say that if it makes you feel better. Yeah, I'm Scottish. We do it in the United States all the time. Yeah, I'm Mexican. I'm Italian. I'm Jewish. I'm Scottish. I'm Irish. I'm a Muslim. We do it in the United States all the time, and you don't have to secede from the country to do it. With pride, we have parades. Cinco de Mayo, the Mexicans go crazy. St. Patrick's Day, the Irish go crazy. Oktoberfest, that's coming up. The Germans go crazy. You can do all of that without seceding. You can be an Irish American just as easily as you can be an Irish. What, do you feel full-blooded because you say, I'm just Irish? I'm not Irish American or American Irish. I'm just Irish. I'm just Scottish. I'm just one kind of person. I'm not anything else, and I'm all proud of that. I'm proud just to be Irish. I'm proud just to be Scottish. Yeah, I'm proud. And like that slave said, you can be proud to be poor. You can be proud to starve. Like a lot of the countries did when they got away from the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union broke up, it wasn't like all of a sudden everybody was saying, yay, we're free. We're free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last. It didn't turn out that way. Doesn't turn out that way. You find that, the devil in the hand is better than the devil you don't know. You find that out really quick. And I think a lot of people in Scotland kind of know this. We know what it's like to be ruled. They feel they're being ruled by a foreign entity. That's what they feel like. They feel like, hey, why do we pay anything to the United Kingdom? Why are we even part of this? They're not even doing nothing for us. A lot of times that's the way it works. As the average citizen, you look at it and say, why am I even part of this? I don't get nothing out of it. We see Americans doing it all the time. What is my government doing for me? Americans ask that all the time. Until they are no longer in America. Until they no longer get the benefits that they don't even pay attention to anymore. They have the right to vote and will not vote but will complain. And then I don't think 70% of the people are complaining. I think that, a small amount in that 70% are complaining. And then the 30% are running the country. I think that, it's a good possibility that if Scotland would have voted itself away from the United Kingdom, and as the United Kingdom started to pool everything that it rightfully owns away from Scotland, the people would start to see, this wasn't supposed to be like this. Yeah, okay, so now we can say we're just Scottish. We have our own country. Yay, we're Scottish. I'm proud to be a Scot. Except for now, I don't even have no money because they didn't think ahead. They haven't even planned for that. Do they have a mint? Just something as simple as a mint. Did they have a plan to have the money changed over? Did they even have a currency plan? Because they said you can't use the pound anymore. Well, maybe they made a deal to use the euro or some other currency. Maybe they were hoping that the United States would say, yeah, go ahead and use the dollar. Just print as much as you want over there in Scotland. And, we'll just sit here and let you print as much money of ours that you want to and just use it any way you want to. That's counterfeit. You're making counterfeit money when you do that. You can't do that. And that's just that part of it. You owe to the country you live in, whether you like it or not. You owe. And that could be why they say, well, this debt belongs to all Americans. Yeah, but it's not like the kind of debt you have to pay. It's the same thing like owning the forest does not mean you own the forest. It's like saying the cop works for you, but you're not his boss. Most people understand that. Most people understand that, yes, the United States of America belongs to all of us. But you just can't do whatever you want. I own my house. But I can't just set it on fire because I want to. I can't even knock it down just because I want to. I have to hire a company. I have to get a permit. There's a tree in front of my house. I just can't go cut it down. It's an old oak tree. It's in front of my house, but it sits on city property. Well, if it sits on city property, who owns the property? Well, the city. Well, who's the city? The people. I'm a people. That's my tree. I should be able to just cut it down. No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't be able to just cut it down. There's reasonings to having the tree there other than just having the tree there. For one thing, trees help clean the air. Trees produce oxygen. There's a lot of things that trees do that, that we don't know, we don't understand. So we got to have them. And you might own it. You might think that you're able to do anything you want to because you own it. You might have that kind of logic in your head, but it's not a logical thing. You can't rationalize it to fit your thinking. You don't own these things. Like if you don't even own yourself. You can't suicide is against the law. You can't even kill yourself if you wanted to. It's against the law. I don't know how they go about it. I guess if they catch you before you kill yourself, they can arrest you and put you in a mental institution. I guess that's the way it works. Because if you succeed, it doesn't matter whether it's against the law or not. And you feel that you own your body, you should be able to do what you want to with it. But you can't have an abortion. You own your own body. You can't have an abortion because they feel that that child in there has rights too. And it doesn't matter at what stage of life that child is at. And you're saying, well, it's my body. I should be able to do with what you want. Well, yes, you should. And a lot of people are fighting to make it that way, that you have a right to have an abortion. A lot of people are fighting for that. We thought that fight was over. But we're starting to learn that there is no fight that's over forever. It's only over when the two sides at the time stop fighting. But if somebody gets a bright idea 20 years from now as to what is your right, they can change it. That's the way the world works, not just the United States. That's the way the world works. And it looks like we're getting a little bit of rain on the waterfront, a little foggy over there. Something's going on. But that's the way things work. So Scotland didn't get to move away from the UK. Chris Christie looks like he may win this fight. Rick Perry is probably happy that Chris Christie is winning this fight. But he still has to deal with the fact that Robert McDonald of Virginia may see some prison time. He didn't do what Robert McDonald did, but he still broke the law. And he's doing the same thing that Chris Christie is doing. He's saying it's all political. Robert McDonald tried to say this is all politics. He tried to say that, and he didn't get away with it. And that's what happens. A lot of times what looks right ain't exactly right. So a little update on how I'm doing today. I'm still in quite a bit of pain. Before I started the show, I dumped a couple of Tylenol, had me a nice cup of coffee. But, I sit in one position. I don't move. I don't try to sit up. I don't try to stand up. And as soon as this show's over, I'll do that. And you won't hear all the grunting and stuff that I do because of the pain. Now, I'm not whining about this. I'm doing what I said I would do. I'm just reporting on my health. That's all I'm doing. I'm not complaining. I'm not looking for a shoulder to cry on. I don't need any. I've got all the help I need. I've got all the people caring about me that I need. And I appreciate all the people, saying, we hope you get better. We're glad you're doing better. I appreciate all the well wishes. I'm not just blowing that off or, saying anything about that. I'm just saying that I'm not whining. I'm not looking for sympathy or anything like that. I just want to get better so I can do the things that I wanted to do. And it was my understanding that these were going to be little cuts. That there was going to be some kind of microsurgery. That, when I came in, that, I was an outpatient kind of thing. None of that was true. But, they've got to keep your head in the right place. They don't want you getting freaked out and scared and saying, nah, I'm not going to do that. You aren't going to do that to me. They don't want you saying that. They don't want you freaking out and not getting the help that you need because it's going to be painful. It's going to hurt. So they don't tell you that sort of thing. They don't say, hey, this is going to be bad. This operation here, on a scale from 1 to 10 on the pain levels of all operations, this will rank up to 10 as far as pain. This is going to hurt. My primary doctor told me that yesterday. I didn't know that. It wouldn't have made any difference. It wouldn't have made any difference. I needed this operation, or there's a chance that I could lose my legs. Because as I get older, number one, they're not going to want to do it as you get older. The operation that vet had was probably way different than the one that I had, because he said he just got a little cut and he was out walking around the next day.